Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lou TV. Here with Andrew and Zach to talk some Pac-12 football. Just getting ready for the season to start. The Pac-12 is an interesting conference. Talking in pre-show, not a whole lot has been determined at some of these schools, but we're going to try and sort through it as best we can. I got Andrew with me over here, who is an Arizona lover by choice yesterday after he drafted an Arizona quarterback. What's up, buddy?
How's it going, dude?
It's going all right. I'm tired, to be honest. Zach, your Boise team, they want to be in the Pac-12, don't they?
Yeah, I'd love for them to be in the Pac-12, but I don't see it happening.
Dude, how does Colorado and Utah get in before Boise?
Man, I don't know. I think if they move, they'll go to the Big 12 because they're going to look to expand at some point.
That's true. I don't think the Big 12 10-ish can handle 10 teams for too much longer. You got to have that championship game. I mean, what do you guys think the big storyline for the Pac-12 here?
How's it going, dude?
Whoa.
It's going all right. I'm tired. That was odd.
What the hell is this?
Your Boise team. What are you doing, Zach? Is that you?
Yeah, it was me.
Good Lord. Zach, what do you think's the storyline in this conference besides replaying Lou TV?
Yeah, my bad. I think it's the same old with the top teams. You got Oregon, Stanford, UCLA, but I think this is Arizona State's year. If they're going to do it, this is their year to take the South. So that's who I'm watching in the Pac-12.
Arizona State. I can get behind that. They got a senior quarterback in the Jalen Strong, probably the most talented receiver in the conference. Andrew, what do you think?
I think, there's some known quantities like Stanford should be good, Oregon should be good, and then there's some bottom feeders like Colorado, and presumably Cal's not going to become an 8-win team overnight. But teams like Washington and Arizona that have in the past been good, not great teams, I think they can kind of go either way, whether they can take the next step or they could regress a little. So I think it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Yeah, there's a lot of really big name players that got that are not in the Keith Price in Washington. Paul Richardson's gone, so how bad is Colorado going to be without that stud at the receiver position? D'Anthony Thomas is gone. They finally got rid of all their little scat backs at Oregon. I'm missing a bunch here. I'm sure Kadeem Carey's gone. Who else is gone? Big names.
What's his name?
Bishop Sankey from Washington.
Arizona State dude, Marion Grice.
Marion Grice. Not Jabbar Gaffney. That'd be interesting. Tyler Gaffney.
Yeah.
What is Tyler Gaffney doing, by the way? Is he in the NFL?
Yeah, he got
Pulled
drafted.
out his leg.
Oh, that's too bad.
He's out for the year.
Already?
Yeah.
But he's on a team.
No, he was on the Panthers. He blew out his leg, and the Patriots claimed him, so now he's on their IR.
Huh.
Good thing we have you.
He'll become a star for the Patriots.
Too much time on Roto World.
Anyway, I don't like Tyler Gaffney, man. He had a bad DFS weekend because of that guy. But anyways, let's jump into quarterbacks. Probably some of the best, most entertaining players in the whole nation are right here in the quarterbacks for Pac-12. Marcus Mariota has to be the number one guy here on the board if you're drafting seasonally, and then in DFS you have to think he's the highest priced quarterback, don't you think, Andrew?
Definitely the highest priced. It's going to be so difficult to get that value because they're going to be up so many points in so many games that, most weeks I think he'll get you that 30 quick points, but whether or not he'll get you 50, 60 and justify that insane price tag, week to week it's going to be a judgment call based on basically how close you think Oregon's going to be played that week.
Yeah, Oregon's got that explosive offense. I wonder what they're going to do. Does Mariota get more, not carries, I guess, but more shoulders, more on his shoulders with all this offense? D'Anthony Thomas gone. I think everybody knows their two running backs are solid, but the receivers are kind of weaker this year. Don't you think, Zach?
Yeah, Braylon Addison being out for the year doesn't help. Keenan Lowe is, I guess, the best option, which, by the way, he went undrafted in our Dynasty League. which I thought was interesting. But really, I think it's there's going to be a lot to prove from those wide receivers because they relied on Addison last year.
So how do we think that they have that guy Devin Allen too, but like you're saying, for the most part, the receivers are unproven and they might not be that good. So do we think that translates to Mariota running more, or just the running game as a whole, whether it be Tyner or Marshall getting more carries? Because it seems like it's been a trend the first 2 years of Mariota where he's kind of worn down, gotten a little dinged up as the year went on, and his plays regressed. So I think it could go either way. They could really give him a monster workload, or they could look to keep him healthier, maybe pull him a little earlier in games, or put more emphasis on Tyner and Marshall.
Yeah, I think if once the game gets out of hand or any sign of that, I think they're going to pull Mariota, get somebody else some work because they're going to try to keep him healthy for that Stanford game. There's one game on the schedule that matters, and it's that one.
Oh, come on, dude! You don't think Michigan State has a chance?
No. I'm saying for the Pac-12. They
okay.
They want to win the Pac-12 because if they don't win the Pac-12, they're not in the playoff. Period.
Fair. That's a good point.
I buy into the whole Heisman effect where somebody, Oregon wants to win a Heisman one time, and they're going to need some stats, and Mariota is going to be able to put up big stats.
He will. So will those running backs.
So you really have to look at, do you trust, I guess, Mariota enough week to week to get his receivers open and stay loose, stay scrambling enough to get them there, or is this going to be one of those times where it's like Nick Marshall at Auburn and they just hand the ball off to Trey Mason and let him run like crazy, or that one time that Nick Marshall is going to take in his own hands and go for 6 touchdowns?
Let's be real too. We're not debating Mariota on a seasonal perspective. This really just comes down to Daly more than anything else, because Mariota's a top 5 option in the entire country if you're talking seasonal. But Daly, when it comes to salary cap, it's very dicey if you're trying to pick a top QB on a week-to-week basis. All those guys who are taking up roughly 20% of your budget, you can't afford to just put up a 3 touchdown week if you're paying for that.
Yeah, I agree. Seasonal, he's great. Daily, I think I wouldn't touch him.
Yeah, he's going to be overpriced. I find myself, the only time I really used him last year was when he was underpriced or bumped down, towards the lower end of the high tiers. But it really is risky with him because it's going to cost you so much. And there's times when he just runs for just 80 yards and a touchdown and 250 and 2 touchdowns passing, which isn't going to be nearly enough for you.
Not at that point.
I think who do you think is the second best quarterback in this conference, Zach?
It's going to I think it's a 2-way tie. I think it's between Brett Hundley and Taylor Kelly. I like Hundley because he's more mobile, but I think Kelly he might be the best passer in this conference.
I don't disagree with that. Kelly's game is just so ugly to watch. It looks like he's an 8-year-old throwing the football, but he gets the job done, no doubt about that. I think I might give him the nod over Hundley just because UCLA tends to they run fly sweeps. They've got 3 running backs now running. Yeah, Brett gets more than his fair share of rushing touchdowns too, but it just seems like they score so many different ways. That's just the way the Noel Mazzoni offense is built. It gets everybody involved, where I think the Arizona State one might be a little more predicated on the quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm with you both. I think Taylor Kelly's the guy I'd rather have. Brett Hundley, he doesn't have the receivers, and he's got 3 running backs, and he had a lot of his fantasy points, 11 touchdowns on the ground last year. Well, you'd have to imagine that Miles Jack is going to steal some of those touchdowns, right?
Down the stretch, that was definitely the case. Once they started integrating him.
Yeah, and he's such a big dude. They're going to want to use him and not Hundley, kind of in the same situation where they want to keep Mariota kind of healthy. Hundley is going to be the one that makes him win, not necessarily put him on the back and just score 7 touchdowns a game. I don't see that kind of potential out of Hundley. I think I'd rather have Kelly. He's got the best receiver in the conference, I think. and that's why I'd probably go with him. And obviously he had such a good year last year. But Hundley's your third option though, right?
It's real close for me. Connor Holiday, I mean, that offense is just so built to just throw 80 times a game. I mean, it's not necessarily like it just sucks because it doesn't hum the way the Texas Tech offenses of the past did. I don't know if it's just because Leach has only been there a couple of years and he hasn't necessarily been recruiting the same way he did when he was in the Big 12. But I mean, it's tough to ignore Holiday from the perspective of that he's outside of when they're playing, say, Stanford, and he's going to throw 5 picks likely. His floor is just so high because they're airing the ball out every single game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Washington State, man. I think if Holiday was a little more talented, 22 interceptions.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. He probably just isn't that good.
I mean, no, I think he's good, but I just wish he was a little bit better than I would exploit it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they take those receivers that honestly Gabe Marks and Crackraft, or whatever you want to call them, Craycraft, all those guys are not like studs, but they get a lot out of them. But I think they kind of like maximize it already. So I don't know. I like Holiday. I think you have to pay attention to him. He's going to be underpriced at times, and obviously, like you said, he has got that high floor because he always is going to be passing so much. I mean, he had 4,600 passing yards last year. So if he just cuts his interceptions in half, or drops 25% of them, he's looking at a 34 touchdown and 16 interception season. That's pretty effing good. So I'm not hating on you, Andrew. There, I don't want to make you think that we have a rift now.
No, I think you were on the right page with that assessment that the talent is probably the issue there because the system is it's built to be so fantasy successful, but. I mean, I guess he's not as good as those players probably overall, with maybe the exception of Marks, who's like a very high recruit. A lot of those guys probably aren't they're not Michael Crabtrees, they're not Graham Harrell, and I guess some of the defenses they're playing are a little more legit than the Big 12 ones that the Leach offenses used to face.
Yeah, and I think Sean Mannion is better than both these guys I'm about to mention, or this guy I'm about to mention, but Jared Goff is kind of like the same way for me. For Cal, they're going to pass a ton. He's got 3,500 yards passing last year, only 18 touchdowns because California just wasn't good. But he's one of those guys that's a really low-end, like high upside guy because of just how much they're going to pass. And we'll talk about Khalfani Muhammad. That's the running back, right?
Yeah.
Khalfani Muhammad. So I think we'll talk about him, but I don't think he's good enough to really take the shine away from Jared Goff.
I think we need to definitely try and pinpoint our collective thoughts on California because there's so much fancy upside in that team. Last year, just in the first year under Dykes, they had basically no experience on their offensive line. Goff was a true freshman who it seemed like once games got out of hand, the team's confidence just went out the window, and they were pulling Goff at halftime. So, I mean, even though the first 3 or 4 games looked really promising and I think showed a lot of the potential that the offense has, things didn't quite work out last year. But, I mean, that offense has as much potential as any in the league. What do you think, Zach?
I always keep in mind he was a freshman last year, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he can only go up.
No excuses, Zach.
Hey. I'm sorry, the guy threw for 3,500 yards as a freshman.
Yeah, I could probably throw for 2,500 yards in that offense.
And only 10 picks.
And they literally had, Washington State doesn't even try to run the ball. They tried to run the ball to keep defenses honest, and it just didn't work. That line was beyond atrocious. I think coming to last year, they had bottom 5 least amount of offensive line starts in the entire nation last year. And this year they have 70-something starts. Obviously, if those players aren't good, it won't matter. But, I mean, like you said, Zach, I think they can only go up.
So who would you guys rather have? Would you rather have Goff or would you rather have Halliday for the season?
Halliday.
Good question. If we're factoring in price and price tag, give me Goff.
Well, yeah, that's true. See, I'm thinking seasonal. So.
You're thinking season. You're the seasonal guy. I'm not going to.
But no, I guess I would agree for daily. Yeah, Goff would probably be the guy.
He got expensive last year too, though, and he ended up not justifying it because the team was such a joke. But it's definitely I think it's maybe not splitting hairs because Holiday's proven that at least his floor is very high, whereas Goff, there's always a chance he gets pulled at halftime. But I mean, if we're talking upside, it's difficult to see another quarterback other than the ones that are really established having much more upside than Goff.
All right. So, I mean, so what do we think about Sean Mannion, another guy in a really pass-heavy offense? Do we think Oregon State continues to be pass-heavy without a guy like Cooks? And do you think that subtraction from that offense is going to affect Mannion a whole lot? Because he had 4,600 yards and 37 touchdowns. I know Cooks was unbelievable, but he still did have some very good games without Cooks's unbelievable, plays.
Yeah, I think they're going to go a little more balanced this year. He'll still be able to air it out, but I think they're going to lean on those two running backs, Storm Woods and Teron Ward. Because they did lose Brandon Cooks, as you said, but they've got some receivers there that did contribute quite a bit last year. Richard Mullaney was like really the number 2 guy, I guess, behind tight ends that they have. But I mean, you got a new guy, Victor Bolden, who they're saying could be the next Brandon Cooks. So, we'll see how they use him. I'm sure they'll use him kind of in the same way. I don't expect him to be the same playmaker that Brandon Cooks was, but I think that they may start early trying to get him into the offense, but I think they're going to kind of go a little more balanced than what we saw last year.
Don't you think that like Sean Mannion is like the comparison to like a pitcher that throws straight over the top? Like those jugs are, pitching machines that are just like tick, 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 tick. You know what I'm saying? You've seen Mannion throw the football.
Yeah.
God, he's so tall, and then he throws it straight over the top. It's like he's 8 feet tall. Yeah, I like Mannion. I just, he's one of those guys that I think will be like mid-range, and I think if you hit on him the right time, because they're going to want to pass. But like I said, I think it's going to be a little more, balanced, but they're still going to be on the passing side. Andrew, you kind of agree with what we've kind of both said?
Pretty much. I mean, Mannion is like one of the more clear regression candidates, I think, just in terms of his pure numbers in the entire CFB. And I mean, coming into last year, I think they loved to run the ball. Like Storm Woods was one of the better backs in the country, and when he got hurt, they just plugged Teron Ward in and kind of just let him run the ball. But I guess last year, I think they lost a lot on their offensive line. So, and I mean, when you have Cooks and you can just feed him the ball for like 14 catches a game, that's easy enough to do. But I don't know. I don't think I would touch that passing game personally.
Oh, all right. A little differing opinion there. Okay, so what about this guy? I've had some – man, this guy can have a huge upside from week to week and then be just terrible the next week. What are your thoughts on injury-prone Travis Wilson from Utah? Zach, what do you think?
I got him on my Dynasty League team, so I've got to try to be unbiased here. I think he's ready for this year because I've been reading a lot about him, and they said he is in the they say this a lot about everybody.
Oh my God! Don't you dare! Don't bring that to this show, Zach.
But no, for real. Like they said that he has worked insanely hard, almost like a linebacker workout as a quarterback. I don't know what that really means. I just kind of threw that out there. But, he's put on some muscle. I think he's trying to beef up to take some of those hits that he's probably going to take. So I like him, though. I think he's, especially in a daily, I think he could definitely be a good value.
Yeah, last year he really feasted on some lesser competition and dropped some huge games. I guess my main concern is if they're going to let him run as much as he did last year, just because it seems like we're not just talking about a situation where if he blows out a knee or whatever, his head seems like it's really screwed up. So if he takes another concussion, he might not be a functioning human being again. So I don't know. As a coach, can you really justify running the guy all over the field in that scenario? And I think a lot of his value does come from his legs.
But I see it from time to time, though. Like, I wouldn't, no offense, Zach, but I wouldn't want him in a dynasty unless I got him low. But just because I don't think consistently he's going to get the potential to do all that. I mean, give me P.J. Walker instead, right? But I mean, I like him. DFS week to week, I could get all over some Travis Wilson.
Fair, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Andrew, here's your time to shine. Who's replacing B.J. Denker at Arizona? Quickly. I don't want to harp on running quarterbacks too much, but please discuss Arizona quarterback situation.
Well, completely biased. It has to be the guy I drafted last night, Gerard Randall. I don't think they can go with the new Solomon just because he strikes me as that pure athlete who's not going to be able to play the quarterback position effectively, at least from a passing standpoint, type of guy. Just going off of what I read scouring the internet about Randall, it seems like he probably wasn't a model assistant at LSU, hence why he had to transfer to JUCO. But all the reports about how he was at JUCO was that he could pretty much make all the throws, but it was more about consistency. And, I mean, what we always like from an Arizona quarterback, he showed an ability to run as well. Scroggins and, Brewer, they both kind of come from high pedigree situations, but it doesn't seem like they're really the kind of quarterbacks that Rich Rod likes. I mean, Danker wasn't necessarily that exactly last year, but I think he molded him into something that was usable. But, I mean, Rich Rod saw how far that could take him last year, and usable only gets you 7-8 wins. I mean, and is that really what you're looking for in your quarterback, especially when you're also replacing an All-American running back? I don't know. You definitely want to utilize those receivers, yes, but the Rich Rod system isn't just all about passing. There's there's the running element too, and he likes a quarterback that could definitely take advantage of his legs.
Do you have any opinions on this?
No, that was Andrew.
Unbiased ones, maybe.
No, I think what I've seen is that Scroggins is the guy as of now. Of course, that could change. Rich Rod is kind of a crazy individual, so I think he could change that game day and say, all right, we're going with a new Solomon for all we know. You know what I mean? Like, I think Scroggins, as of right now, if you were to say starting day one, that's the guy.
I don't know who is going to win it because I don't live in Arizona and follow Wildcat football nonstop. But I will say
We didn't even know who the starters were until it came out 5 minutes before the game last year that Kadeem Carey was suspended. I mean, Rich Rod's not going to tip his hand early.
Right.
This is the situation you want. Like, if you're going to get two guys from the same team in a dynasty or whatever, this is the situation for me you want because it's going to be that high explosive offense. You don't have a running back that's proven. Kadeem Carey stole some points from, not stole, I guess, but he earned every bit of them. But Danker could have had a much bigger season if Kadeem Carey wasn't there. But now, they have a bunch of running backs that aren't proven. They haven't even, I don't think they even have one designated as the full-fledged starter. This is, in good receivers, this is the situation you want to get into, if you're asking me. And honestly, Siler, Miles, and Washington's kind of in the same spot with no longer having Sankey, an offense that typically wants to pass it around a lot. Keith Price was successful in it, and Jake Locker from obviously. Those are two offenses that are can do that for him. You're the Boise guy, though. What kind of offense is Peterson going to bring to Zach?
I don't know. I really don't know. I say that because he changed his offense. Every time we brought in a new offensive coordinator, the offense drastically changed. Like when Brian Harsin, who's now the head coach at Boise, left, they completely changed the whole, they were going, pro style with Harsin, then they started speeding it up. And then last year, they wanted to go this no-huddle bull crap that I didn't like it. Just, I'm biased, but
I can tell you're shaking over there, Zach.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I think he adapts to what what the situation and the players that he's got more than anything. So I think he'll go kind of up tempo with this team.
I think I'm with you. I think if he's going to adapt to what he's got, which it sounds like what he's been doing his whole career, which honestly, if you're at Boise, you should be adapting to what you have because there's no consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But with Siler Miles, he's got some legs on him. He can throw. He had some games and experience last year with when Keith Price was hurt. They have the receivers
You
that
look
can do
good
some
last year,
damage.
dude. You look completely like in control, cool and calm. Like not necessarily like a fantasy stud, but like I don't really have qualms about him being a good college quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's questioning. I mean, Devin Gardner's getting questioned at quarterback. I don't think Tyler Miles is getting questioned at quarterback. Like I think like you said, he handled it pretty well, and he had some good games. Nothing crazy, but in terms of winning games or just managing the game, he did well. Um, I can see Tyler Miles doing some damage. I remember last year when Keith Price was hurt, he was pretty low price, and everybody was jumping on him. But yeah, I think I think there's nothing really we missed on quarterbacks. I don't think you really should talk about Sefu Liafau or whatever that guy's name is at Colorado.
I wanted him to be good last year so badly. Like it seemed like he was entering a good situation in terms of his pedigree and getting the coach from I guess San Jose State who put up great numbers there, but it just didn't translate. Do you think there's any shot that he can become a stud, Zach, or no?
I don't think he's a tier 1 quarterback by any means, but I think they've got some receivers that that can play. I mean, well, Paul Richardson was the stud, but Nelson Spruce is there, Bryce Bobo's there. They've got some talent. I think he could be pretty solid, especially in a daily scenario.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think he was a freshman, and he did well for being a freshman in Colorado. I'll give him that. Last year, the games I did watch, which is pathetic that I would watch Colorado football, they kept everything very basic for him. Like the only time they would throw it deep was when they did like a play action to Richardson, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem like Spruce and Bebo or Bibo or Dido is going to be like that guy for him. I think he would have to be a daily only, obviously, like you said, Zach, and pretty low price wise for me to consider him. I did do it last year, but I don't know. It's early in the season, so I can't eliminate Bibos or Didos just yet. We'll see though. Moving on to running backs, this is like a running back by committee. This is a mess, is what this is. We could talk probably for an hour on this whole topic of who's going to do what. But I think the one running back by committee that's clear and that no one's going to have a problem with is in Oregon, obviously. Byron Marshall and Thomas Tyner. I think both of them, week to week, could have amazing games. They could both have great games. What do you think about this, Zach?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, they could even go 3 deep if they had to. But I think those two guys they're the locks to be like 1A, 1B kind of thing. So DJ Foster at Arizona State, I think, is a lock too. But after that, it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, and those two, Marshall and Tyner, had great yards per carry, 6.2 each. They're going to score a lot of runs, a lot of touchdowns. Marshall had 14 last year, and Tyner had 9. So and they didn't even play the full season.
And
so
that's with D'Anthony Thomas on the field.
Yeah, and that's with D'Anthony Thomas on the field, and Mariota getting a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I think that the sky's the limit for these two. If one of them gets hurt, you better run like hell to get these guys, to get to whatever one is not, because it could be dangerous with how good they are. Andrew, is there one that's like jumping out? Is Marshall the guy over Tyner if there had to be a 1A or a 1 compared to a 2 kind of thing, or are they both 1A, 1B?
Dude, I drafted Tyner pretty high in my league last year, and it paid off big time. But what you were saying about the committees, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing and can actually be a good thing, especially since we're talking daily, for 2 reasons. A, like you said, if someone gets hurt, the backup will probably be drastically underpriced, and he won't be just some unproven guy. We'll have seen footage of this guy, and hopefully he'll have shown us some good things. So he'll be a good plug and play. But also, a 2-back committee isn't so bad because you'll have games like the Colorado Charleston Southern game last year where Michael Atkins dropped like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns as like a backup running back. So, I mean, I guess that's more for daily than seasonal, but the committee thing definitely offers it offers an opportunity for you to get great pricing on those second guys in nice cream puff matchups.
Yeah,
I know I didn't answer your question.
No, you're good. You know what? I don't know if there is an answer to that question. I think that one of them could blow up, and I think that they could
I
end
love
up.
Tyner, and that's all there is to it. I mean,
Yeah, we can. Dude, you're so biased. It's awesome, Andrew. You don't even run away from it.
Well, I'll be
Uh,
honest too. I have him on my dynasty team, so I hope Byron Marshall kind of just
Breaks his leg in week 1
No.
against UVA, or not UVA,
Cramp
against
or something.
Tulane.
transfers.
He just. Uh, One situation I will not be touching. Period. You cannot pay me to is the UCLA running back situation.
Nope.
Jordan James, Paul Perkins, and now the addition of Miles Jack to the offense. They're gonna get him some touches, especially with how big he is. He might be that goal line guy, and Paul Perkins and Jordan James might not ever see the end zone. Is this a situation where you just don't touch at all, Zach?
Yeah. In daily, I would say no. I think you kind of go with who's hot at that point, because you're gonna have what, 2 running backs in a flex position, right?
Yeah,
So-
likely it's gonna be something like that.
Right. So as a flex, taking Miles Jack wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, because I don't
Probably
think
more head-to-head than like a GPP type scenario, though.
I'm just saying, like, he's probably not going to be priced that high because his touches aren't going to be. He's not going to have 25, 30 carries. But he had 7 touchdowns and 38 carries last year.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Jack would be the guy, if any of them, because I think he's just going to get all the red zone carries. But I tried messing with James and Perkins. Actually, I can't remember which one, but at one point, one of them was just dominating for a cheap price. Andrew,
Yeah.
do you have a preference, or are you going to be staying away from this in DFS, do you think?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Are you planning on staying away from this situation in DFS, or is
I
this
think
something
so.
you're going to test the waters?
Maybe in head-to-head, but like if you're playing in a GPP type tournament, where you need every single point. Like it's tough to see any of these guys going for like 180 and 3. So I mean, but depending on Jack's price early in the year, like he's probably good for a touch. Maybe not the first game because you don't know how they're gonna use him. But if they're using him like you used him last year, and he's not too expensive in a head-to-head game, and you think he's good for like 50 yards and a touchdown or 2, I mean that's not a bad punt.
Gotcha. So, one running back by committee situation I don't mind is Trey Madden and Javorius Allen from USC. Zach, you're the depth chart guy. Is this a committee, or is this a Trey Madden #1 kind of thing?
I have it on my depth chart that they kind of share the #1, but I think it's Javorius Allen is the 1, and then Trey Madden is the 2. And Justin Davis might be 2A. I mean, I think they've got it. They got talent. USC always has talent, but I think Allen's the guy. I haven't gotten to USC yet in my update, so.
Agreed. I mean, Javorius was awesome down the stretch last year.
Yeah, he some huge games. I remember he had like a 6 carry, like 160-yard, 2 touchdown game or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the guy was electric.
Yeah.
Trey Madden was good, and even Justin Davis had his moments, but I would take a chance on one of these two. That's what I would do. I wouldn't even mind it at all, taking a chance on these two. They got a ton more talent, in my opinion, than Perkins and James. What's that?
I think Javorius might get 30 carries a game. Like I don't think Trey Madden's a threat. For whatever reason, Kiffin loved him and he was letting him play quarterback for a little while, just a wildcat. But he'd give him entire series. It was insane. So I'm not putting that much stock in Trey Madden's seasonal numbers just because it seemed like the vast majority of them came in the Kiffin era, and then it was pretty much Javorius' time to shine after that. I don't know. Like I really wouldn't be surprised if he put up, and I'm just saying this obviously because Sarkisian's the coach, but if he put up Sankey numbers, it would not surprise me at all.
Oh, we have an early prediction. Andrew says Sankey numbers out of Javorius Allen. Mark it down, Zach.
I don't necessarily disagree. I don't know if they can run that up-tempo offense with Cody Kessler.
Dude, Cody Kessler's a beast.
Okay.
Where did Javorius Allen go in our draft, though, by the way?
Really high, like second or third.
Remember.
I'll give you that info in just a second.
Second or third round? Really?
Yeah. Did anyone draft Max Brown in our league?
Lord.
He went in the 3rd round. Javorius Allen did.
Yeah.
What now? Who?
Did anyone draft Max Brown or no?
No.
Interesting.
This is not the time to be chatting about who's available on the free agent wire and everything.
Dude, everyone who's watching is probably in our league.
Yeah. Don't pick him up. He's terrible.
You briefly mentioned him, Zach. DJ Foster, real quick, tell me why you think he's a lock for a top 2 or 3 running back in the conference.
Well, if it weren't for Marion Grice, DJ Foster would have been up there with Sankey, I feel like. He kind of did everything. Kind of played in the slot, kind of played in the backfield, kind of a little everywhere. So he gets touches all over the field. I think they'll probably move him more into the backfield solely this year, but I think he's definitely capable of the workload.
Yeah, and he honestly, the fact that he can catch the ball in the backfield or line up and slot, I think that's a great addition to have in DFS because some of these sites are point per catch, half point per catch. I mean, that's huge if you can get that out of a running back.
He caught 63 balls last year.
Yeah, that's insane. It was almost like he was a receiver at some points in the season.
I'd really like to see them keep him in that role. I don't know if he could hold up in a 25 carry type scenario. Like, I think it was the conference championship game against Stanford. They tried to use him as a workhorse, and it looked like he blew out his knee like 3 carries in, and there were rumors that he tore his ACL, and then all of a sudden he's back a quarter later. But he doesn't seem like a workhorse. I really want to see him more in like a 10, 15 carry, 5 to 10 catch kind of role, like pretty much how they used him last year with a few more carries. Because otherwise, I think there's a major health risk there.
I mean, that's still a 20 to 25 touch game.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know. If they try and use him like a Grice, I think he's gonna get hurt.
He just likes Javorius Allen more than DJ Foster, so you better not act like you better.
Foster, I'll take Javorius.
Oh my goodness, this is great, Andrew. I love your bold picks. The fact that you took Brissett or whatever that guy's name is from NC State.
Now, have we made it big enough where we don't? It doesn't matter if we're wrong because we get to just come back next year and keep doing it, or do we actually assess our picks?
I think we have to have successful picks.
Oh.
Or at least a little bit, Andrew. I'm not sure if we can wing it or
like we watched
phone it in before week 1.
We watch this next year at this time, and we decide whether we go on air or not.
We are going back because Paul Perkins is going to be a stud this year, and I'm totally
1,800 yards.
Yeah, I'm going to be like he's got like 400 yards in him. Here we go. Here's one that we can look back on. Barry Sanders Jr. is supposed to be the starting running back for Stanford, correct?
As of now, I think I guess what was the name? Ramon Wright.
Yeah.
He had some academic issues, I believe, and
at Stanford, he probably had like a 3.8.
Yeah, but it was enough to get him suspended from the team. So I haven't really looked into him yet recently, honestly. But I think Barry Sanders has got to be the most talented back just on genes alone.
So, genes alone. Well, yeah, his genes are pretty good. I was doing, I work at the Hall of Fame, obviously, and we were just learning about it, kind of just doing some stupid stuff, learning about it. Do you know how good Barry Sanders' Heisman year was?
It's like 2,530-something TDs, right?
Everybody was like, if you could pick a running back in college, who would it be? And I said, Barry Sanders. Why not? And somebody was like, well, he was only good in the NFL. And I said, oh, wait a minute. After his bowl game, he had 12 games, including the bowl game, 2,800 rushing yards, 42 touchdowns. That is insane. He averaged like 4 touchdowns a game. So is it wild and maybe a little far-fetched to say Barry Sanders Jr. has it in him to get 2,535 touchdowns, Andrew?
I was thinking only 34.
You're saying under 35?
Yeah, barely though.
All right.
Are we putting money on this, taking the under? Because I'll do it.
All right. So realistically, though, I think Barry Sanders Jr. is in a good spot. I mean, he's got the talent.
Yeah.
He obviously was a good recruit, not just because of his name. I mean, I'm sure it helped. But Stanford is one of those teams that you can kind of just put a running back in there, and I feel like he's going to become a workhorse. Gaffney, honestly, Gaffney didn't have a whole lot of talent in terms of speed or agility. He just was a very good overall running back. I think Sanders probably has more talent than him, so I don't see why he can't produce numbers similar to his.
No, I agree completely. Because he was also their punt returner, was he not?
Yeah, I believe he did some returning.
So he's definitely elusive. So I think, if he can just run between the tackles, I'm sure he's beefed up since last year. So I think your assessment's pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of potential, and I think the reason, we didn't even mention Keith Hogan, a game manager, a guy that's not going to put up huge games, because that's just not the way Stanford runs their offense. I think it's going to be based around their running back, and they're going to throw to Ty Montgomery, and that's about it. And I think that Barry Sanders could have a really good year. He'd probably be my kind of sneaky-ish pick. Not sneaky, but, honestly, if you're talking running backs in the Pac-12, you kind of start with the guys we've already discussed. I really like him. What about, you're the Arizona guy. You've been deemed Arizona guy for the day, Andrew. What's the running? Are we doing anything with the running backs? Is it worth talking about? They have two guys, I guess, that are not technically named the starter, or what's the deal?
Jack has like 14 people on his depth chart, but I can't claim to know anything about it. But regardless, much like the quarterback situation, the offense is so productive, and I don't think it's a scenario like West Virginia where they kind of just fell flat last year. I expect this offense to pretty much roll once they decide on who the guys are, just because it seems like there's enough talent, both at quarterback or running back. And we already know receivers got a ton of talent. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where you could see the offense fall flat, but it's more of a next man up type thing. But like I said earlier about the quarterbacks, we might not know until 5 minutes before kickoff of the first game, which makes a potentially amazing scenario for following Twitter up to that for DFS purposes. And if an underdog gets named the starter, you get him at minimum price or close to it possibly on DFS, and it could be really, really good.
Yeah, I think kind of like what I said, this is a good situation to handcuff because that offense is so good, consistently with Rich Rod. They don't win a whole lot of games in general, winning 10+, but they do put up a lot of points. Lord, I have no idea who's going to be the running back, but I don't think anybody does. And honestly, you might have to wait 2 weeks to use them, but I think they're going to be valuable because...
Let's look back at last year, though. Danker gets named the QB, I think, a day or two in advance, so we know him. Carey, there's rumors about him doing some terrible stuff, possibly I think he pushed a girl downstairs or something really bad. So an hour before kickoff of the first game against UNLV, who they play this year in their first game as well, it comes out he's suspended. He's not in pads. Daniel Jenkins is the running back, and his backup. If you plugged him in, whether it be seasonal or DFS, you would have gotten, I think it was close to 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, there's so much potential in this offense that just because Carey and Danker are gone, I think that it is a little bit of next man up, and it's just a matter of, first from seasonal, if you're drafting early or by early, up to a day before the draft, because Rich Rod's not going to give us any idea. I think you're probably just going to have to get lucky, maybe pick the guy you think is most talented or works best in the offense.
Yeah, I think, honestly, we kind of need to get to receivers because there's a lot of talent there. And I think we kind of – Colorado running backs, Utah running backs are kind of blah. And in California, Kalfani Muhammad, all right, cool name, but what's he going to do for you? Receivers are where it's at. They have a lot of guys, and we've talked about a lot of offenses that are electric, that pass it a lot, that want to get the no huddle going. I know who I like as my favorite receiver in this group. What is your favorite? Who's your favorite receiver out of all these guys, Zach?
As personal reasons or just fantasy reasons?
Give me both, Zach. Why not?
Fantasy reasons. I like Jalen Strong. Because I think he's going to get the most I say that, but look at Cal's receivers. But I think Strong's going to get the most yards out of his catches. Most fantasy value out of his catches is my point. But personally, Austin Hill's my guy. senior. He coming back from knee surgery, missed all last year. He had a amazing 2012. So I don't know if he'll get back to that. I'm hoping he does. I don't have him in any of my leagues, so I'm not being biased in that way. So I would like to see that, but Arizona's loaded at receiver.
Yeah.
They've got 4 or 5, maybe even 6 options that are pretty solid. So.
Yeah, but they're still going to look Hill's way first, second, and third. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, that smile, man, about Austin Hill, Andrew, is awesome.
I think Andrew's been waiting all summer to talk about Arizona.
I love them, dude. They're great.
Sneaky Arizona fan over here.
It's like, do I get that look in my eyes when Zach starts talking about Hawaii's offense from the early 2000s?
Oh,
Timmy
my
Chang.
God.
Remember Timmy Chang from Hawaii?
Of course.
Timmy Chang. You can't forget Timmy Chang. Andrew, is it Jalen Strong for you, number one fantasy-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it's boring, but I mean, he's awesome. I mean, he's just a complete physical mismatch to pretty much whoever tries to cover him. And to be honest, a lot of these defenses in the Pac-12, I mean, they're jokes. The only thing you could really gripe about him is that, kind of like UCLA, they have a million ways to score. Whether it be one of their like 5 receivers who just kind of come out of the woodwork, or Kelly likes to run the ball and does it effectively, and then Foster, and they even run their tight end. I mean, they've got a ton of ways to score.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the only thing you can get mad about Jalen Strong about, is the fact that they have so many ways to score that it's just going to be tough to spread around to everybody. But yeah, I think Jalen Strong is easily number one. Really, really quick, because I want to talk about other receivers, but do you think he's a top 2 or 3 receiver in the whole country in terms of draft potential for the NFL, Zach?
We don't care about the NFL, dude.
That's why I said really quickly, Andrew.
Yeah, I do. He's 6'4", 210 pounds, almost prototypical receiver size. So, yeah, I think so.
Andrew, you don't care about NFL at all, is that what you're telling me?
No, but I guess, sure. It doesn't matter.
Dude, if you're not going to give me a passionate answer like you talk about these other guys, then don't even just be quiet, all right? Just be like, next, okay? Like we're on MTV again, all right? It's tough. You know, the only other 1,000-yard receiver that's returning is Drez Anderson from Utah. I don't believe anybody else broke the 1,000-yard mark. Is he the second best receiver in this conference for fantasy potential, Zach?
No. I think it's Ty Montgomery.
Ty Montgomery.
For an all-around game, because, I mean, you're going to get the fly sweep from Ty Montgomery. You're going to get the 60-yard seam route from Ty Montgomery. You're going to get more ways for him to get the ball than Drez Anderson, who's purely their receiver.
All right, do you agree?
I think we're all on different pages on this one. Because I think Drez Anderson, his value is so tied to Wilson's health. And also, I mean, it seems like most of his damage comes on deep throws, too, which kind of could limit him if they're facing a good defense. Personally, I would rather I think Chris Harper takes a step this year. And he was on fire early in the year, much like the rest of the Cal offense. But I don't think there's any denying his talent. He's absolutely awesome. And I think I'd rather have Aguilar, too.
Yeah.
Aguilar, man. Cody Kessler.
He's not bad, dude. I mean, he
just doesn't get me going. I don't dream about him when I'm going to sleep at night on a Saturday night. You know, I don't win money because of Cody Kessler.
Yeah.
So who do you dream about on Saturday night when you're going to sleep?
On a Saturday night, I dream about Marshawn Williams, Michael Brewer, and Shane Morris, obviously.
Okay, back to the Pac-12.
Back to the Pac-12, because those were just garbage players. Chris Harper, interesting. I like the Chris Harper pick because California is, California. Does anybody call him California? Cal throws the ball a lot. We discussed. Hopefully they score more this year. But the good thing is they're so bad on defense, they always have to throw. And that's why, personally, I picked Kenny Lawler, the sophomore who I like. I think he's got potential. Is he worthy of a guy that's going to be a top 8 receiver in the Pac-12? No. DFS-wise, I think he's going to be solid. There's potential there. Chris Harper, though, could have a really good year. You're right. He was huge at the beginning, slowed down towards the end. Only 5 touchdowns, but he still had 852 yards. And I think we all can agree that we like Dres Anderson. I just don't think any of us can agree he's top 3. You know.
I hope he has the best year of all of them because I have Travis Wilson.
Yeah, Travis Wilson. Honestly, like you said, Andrew, it's going to depend on Travis Wilson. Dres Anderson should be working out, doing linebacker drills, workouts with them to motivate him because he needs them. I love Ty Montgomery. It's hard not to like him. He has 10 receiving yards or touchdowns last year, almost just under 1,000 receiving yards, and he can he's a rushing threat. What was the injury that he had that he's rehabbing right now?
To be totally honest, I don't even remember what they
I saw that he's rehabbing and ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I actually read something yesterday. It says like a quote from him saying that he is very, very hopeful to play. So would take that for what it's worth. So
that's good. Hopeful to play.
Yeah.
I love these media quotes these days. Andrew dropped some Algalore on us. What do you think about him, Zach? I mean, I like him, but I don't know. Cody Kessler, man, just doesn't.
Like I like him, but I'm not expecting 2012 Marquise Lee numbers from him. You know, and I think a lot of people are, and he very well could do that, I guess, but I don't think that's realistic to put those expectations on him. Because I honestly think they're more balanced at receiver than they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people really are expecting a huge year out of Algalore, because Marquise Lee is gone now, and Woods was so great there. It's like, oh, he should step right in, right? And I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to have the same year last year, probably break 1,000 yards, maybe a few more touchdowns, but I don't think that puts him in the top 2, What about Nate Phillips from Arizona? He returns, correct?
Yeah.
Is he one of those 5 or 6? Is it going to be one of those things where you kind of just hoping that he's the main, one of the main targets, or you think you can kind of rely on him?
I liked him last year. He was reliable for like 70 yards and a touchdown every game. It was great. If you wanted like a cheap receiver in DFS, you just plugged him in. You pretty much knew what you were getting down the last 6 games. But I think it's difficult to bank on that again this year, considering all the depth Arizona has at receiver relative to last year. And I think he probably just because of that, I think he got overdrafted a little bit in our draft as a result of that.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, they're loaded to receiver, and we've talked about the quarterback. We don't know who the quarterback is, so
Gerard Allen or whatever his name is. Gerard.
You don't even know your own players, man.
Exactly. So they've got 4, 5 wide receivers that I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing. Because how good is Austin Hill going to be? I mean, I hope he's great, but realistically, how good is he going to be? Caleb Jones, you got Nate Phillips, Devontae Neal.
But with Hill, it's not like an NFL injury where you got hurt mid-year and you're trying to make it back for a training camp. He got hurt in March of 2013. The dude has had 18 months to recover. And isn't this pretty much the exact same scenario as Paul Richardson from a couple of years ago, where he tore his ACL, and he came back amazingly, obviously last year. I have complete confidence in Hill personally.
Dude, look at him defending his players.
I just think they have more options.
Did we call Rich Rodriguez? Is this Andrew or Rich Rod? Let me look deeper. All right, we talked about Gabe Marks a little bit when we talked about Connor Halliday. Does he have potential to be like the main? I mean, obviously he's the main guy, but is he going to be the guy potentially in the Pac-12? Does he have that kind of upside with the fact that Halliday's going to throw it a ton, Zach?
I think he's hit his ceiling, and I think his floor and his ceiling aren't far apart. I think he's set right in there between 65 and 80 catches. I mean, that's where he's going to be.
Sucks because he was the first Mike Leach super recruit at Wazoo. Huge things were expected from him, and it just doesn't seem like he's ever going to get there.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with Leach's offense is he spreads it around so much.
Yeah,
Marks is going to be kind of like that consistent Nate Phillips type. I feel like you were just saying about him. 70, 80 yards, 5, 6 catches, a touchdown, which
Yeah,
is
fair.
nice. But then they do it and they price him up. But the problem is they don't give him enough of like those super targets, all those like 10, 12 targets a game for him to really explode. I think you're right. The floor and the ceiling are pretty much the same for him.
Real quick on Washington State, it feels like there's a lot of buzz on Vince Mailey. What's the reason behind that? Because I know I like expecting somewhat big things from him, but I don't understand why.
I'm guessing it's because he did score 7 touchdowns last year on 43 catches, I think. 42.
He was a transfer in too, right? So I guess that's what it is, that he kind of this is year 2. Maybe he can step
Right.
up.
So I mean,
What's your thought there, Zach? You got it. Do you have any insider knowledge there?
no, I just know that
Make something up.
it's a crapshoot with Washington State. Okay, that's all I know.
Dude, unbiased opinion, River Craycraft is going to go ham this summer or this fall, okay? You heard it here first.
There you go.
Last guy I think we should really talk about, Richard Mullaney. I've heard that he's going to stay in his same position, obviously receiver, but the same side of the field, same chemistry with Sean Mannion. That's a good thing for him. Hopefully he can score more than 3 touchdowns this year. Andrew, do you think that he's going to have the same kind of 800 yards, 3 to 5 touchdowns kind of year? Or do you think maybe he gets the ball thrown a little more his way and that offense, tends to be more Mullaney-esque instead of Cooks-esque?
He should get the ball a little more, but I mean they've got.
Is he going?
He froze.
Oh, come on,
2
Andrew.
tight ends. They have him.
There you go.
I can't remember what one of them's got.
No. We were talking about you being gone. Andrew, keep talking about Oregon State. Mullaney,
Fine.
go for it.
Okay, let's backtrack.
Okay, well, he
Much
froze.
we spent time on Bolden, just because he's the hype guy. What?
Keep going.
But regarding Bolden, if someone's going to really step up into that Cooks role, I mean, it seems like Bolden's going to be that dude. But I mean, I really don't know much about him outside of the fact that he's generating a good amount of hype. But so, I mean, what do you think on that one, Zach? I assume you put together a projection for him. Was it closer to Mullaney's numbers last year or Cooks' numbers last year?
You talking about Bolden?
Yeah. I completely switched rails on you right there.
All right. I think they have Bolden and Cooks have similar builds, so I think they're definitely gonna try to use him the same way. I think Mullaney, go back to the original question. I think Mullaney his targets will go up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really say, wow, he is the guy, So they use their tight ends, they use their backs out of the backfield. So I think I think you gotta take a chance with Bolden because I think he's got the talent. I'm just not sure he can put up Cook's numbers or even near those numbers.
Yeah, Cooks had some unbelievable numbers last year. I don't think people really realize because he was in. I don't think people appreciate it either because he was in that offense and the teams that they would be playing in Pac12, West Coast. You don't really notice it as much. But yeah, I think Mullaney, slight increase, not a whole lot. I just don't see. I think we've talked about it. They're going to scale back a little bit of the passing, and I can imagine them struggling early on with the passing game, and then kind of scaling it back even more. It's going to be interesting to see. I just don't see Mullaney as like a high upside guy, even with Cooks gone.
Agreed.
Tight ends.
Hold on, can we go back to receiver real quick?
Dude, you do whatever you want, Zach. Who do you want to talk about?
A guy I was on my radar. I couldn't get him in our draft. I was kind of upset about it. But Eric Lauderdale at Arizona State. He was I think, number 4 rated JUCO receiver coming out this year. And I think he could do some big things at Arizona State.
So he'll be the number 2 guy on the other side of Jalen Strong.
Either he or Cameron Smith. But I like Lauderdale personally. So take that for what it's worth.
No, Lauderdale, man. If you're in that offense, you kind of just get an automatic little boost. Do you think the JUCO fact helps him a little bit? Because obviously, I'm sure he's a little bit stronger than he was in high school. Or do you think that doesn't really matter because, high school to college, it gets a little overplayed? What do you think, Zach?
I mean, I think it helps him. I mean,
Helps strong.
yeah, I think he's built up more muscle than you have come out of high school, and I think he's more experienced, even though it was at a JUCO level. That's still a step up from high school, So.
All right. Any receivers that we missed that you want to talk about? Just anybody not from Arizona you want to talk about here, Andrew?
I think that Bryce Treggs.
That's the guy.
He's worth talking about. His upside is definitely limited, sort of like how we talked about how Darius Josephs was at SMU. But if that offense clicks, which I mean, so much has to go right for it to really live up to its potential. I think he's 90 receptions, 900 yards. But so I mean, obviously that makes him great for PPR, and maybe not so much in leagues where you're not getting points for receptions. And I agree, Chris, with what you said about Kenny Lawler. He looked awesome at certain points last year once he started getting integrated more into the offense. I think he had a 3-touchdown game where he just made some sick catches.
Dude, he had some awesome one-handed catches.
There's definitely he's very talented, and I think that there could be some opportunity there for him.
Yeah, good name drop on Treggs. You're right. The PPR guy, that offense, man. It's
you guys
like,
love Case and Williams, right?
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, we forgot on Washington. We forgot who's going to be the Washington guy. Safarian Jenkins is gone. Who's going to be getting all those red zone targets, Zach?
Well, I would think it's got to be Case and Williams, but I've said that for 3 years in a row.
He's burned us every year, as fantasy players. Frustrating.
But Jaden Mickens is definitely in a PPR league a guy to target.
Yeah, Phil Steele has Case and Williams as a second-team All Pac-12. So, somebody agrees with us here, or you here.
I respect that. I mean, he's a great buy low in seasonal.
He should be. He's a talented receiver. I don't know why he hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Goodness. All right, so I think we covered them all, right? Nelson Spruce. Anything to talk about Nelson Spruce really quick? Bibo Dido? Yeah. Not in the top 10-ish.
Move to tight ends. Let's do it.
Move to tight ends. I got a bedtime to hit. Man, tight ends are... I wish I knew what Oregon State was going to do with their tight end situation. Connor Hamlet kind of seems to be the guy, right?
I don't even know. I think you got to split. I think they're both equally valuable to that team.
You got Smith. What's his name? I forget.
Caleb Smith.
Caleb Smith. I knew there was another C. Caleb Smith to split. That's why I said, last year it was like, well, Caleb Smith just had a touchdown and 80 yards, and then it was like Connor Hamlet would have 8 catches for 60 yards, and then it just flip-flopped. That's the situation I would really take an eye, watch out. Andrew mentioned Demarie Nelson, I believe, the tight end from Arizona State. Another guy that can score in the red zone either by catching it or by running it in, which is interesting. Interesting enough. Is there any, what guy are you guys looking at besides those two?
Real quick on Nelson, though. Last year, once it became apparent that he was going to get red zone carries, his price skyrocketed on DFS sites, and as a result of that, you really were counting on him getting a 1 or 2 yard touchdown, or the guy isn't going to catch 5 catches for 70 yards. So he was incredibly boomer bust at a price that didn't necessarily justify that being a strong investment. So I'm curious to see how he's priced coming into this year, because he wasn't cheap at the end of last year. So the games where he didn't go off and get that red zone touchdown, he really burned you hard. So I mean, seasonal, I think that you'll be good there. I think over the course of the season he should put up pretty decent numbers, but it's gonna be tough on a daily basis. If he's not scoring touchdowns, I think you're in trouble. Chris, I think you're more qualified, Chris, to talk about the Pac-12 tight ends than anybody else. You have the MVP of the league, I believe.
I drafted a tight end, which was a surprise. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I did draft John Muntz from Oregon, hoping and praying that he didn't pull, like you said yesterday in the draft, a Colt Lyria, which would just be the most terrible thing ever. Who knows what's going to happen? I just figure, honestly, we saw so many guys in that Oregon team be drafted that I've never heard of or never imagined. I'm sure people just scrolled through and just searched Oregon players and just drafted them, but that's kind of what I did with me. It was like a sophomore tight end, Munt, and he's in an offense that's unbelievable. So why not take a flyer on him? Who knows what they're going to do with tight ends in that offense.
Here's some good news with that pick, though. Their top 3 receivers from last year aren't playing this season. So they've got to replace them somehow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I wish I could say that I knew that at the time.
Josh Huff's graduated, Braylon Addison's hurt, and Darrell Hawkins is graduated. So Johnny Munt's the 4th leading receiver. He moves to the top, man.
Good Lord, let's do it, Johnny. Might have to name my fantasy team after him. Tight end, I'm kind of like looking at, USC always runs those like traditional NFL-style offenses. I think Randall Telfair might benefit from that. I think he had like 6 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown last year, but I think as a senior, big 6'4", 250 frame, I think, if you're playing DFS and he's minimum priced, USC's got a good matchup, not too good because I think at some point it's just going to be all running backs, but, a nice, tough matchup. I think Telfair could have some good games. What are you thinking in tight ends in this conference, Zach?
Really, other than the ones we've mentioned, not much. I guess watch Stanford's tight ends. Will they go back to using some tight ends like they have in the past? Eric Cotton would be the guy I think to watch there. But other than that, man, I don't know. I don't think I would really look at any of the other ones.
I like your point with Telfair, though, just because Sarkisian loved using obviously any coach is going to use Tafari Jenkins, but, I think it could translate to his USC offense, especially. I think Xavier Grimble's gone, right?
Yeah.
So, he won't be fighting him for playing time. I don't know if there's any good backup tight ends there, but assuming Telfair's a starter, he could put up some good numbers. I like it, especially considering when I look at the depth charts for all the other teams, I don't recognize the majority of these names.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, I think you really just got to look for the Oregon State tenants. Simple as that. Maybe Johnny Munt does some stuff like we were talking about for the leading receiver, really, just because everybody's gone. It's just a tough position all the way around, and honestly, tight ends in the Pac-12 is not deep at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a really good last question, but I kind of can't think of anything. All right. This is going to be pretty basic, but who would you guys rather have, Cal's receivers or Washington State's receivers? Andrew, which one are you taking?
Cal. It's not close. I think they have a great balance between guys who are whose skill set fits the big play, and then they have Treggs who they don't even bother running him past 10 yards. It seems like he just goes quick out, easy 8 yards, and and Lawler and Harper seemed like they were highlight reels consistently. It's tough to say much about the rest of the team as something that you can count on, but I think their receiver depth is awesome.
Zach?
I thought he was going to say Arizona to answer that question. Anyway.
I'm going to go a little bit off the question here and say Arizona's.
No, I would have to agree. Cal, I think, got the more talented receivers. I think Washington State's receivers will put up similar numbers just because of the offense that they're in. But I think if I had to just take a group of receivers, that's the 3 I would take.
Yeah, I just think Cal's got the upside with Lawler and Harper, and then you have the reliable Treggs. Obviously Gabe Marks is good, and I think there's some options in Washington State, but you just don't even know who they are. You don't know which ones are going to be doing it. They spread it around too much.
Which is sad. Cal went 1-11 last year, and we know who they are.
It's crazy, isn't it? DFS will do anything to you. It'll make you watch Colorado Cal just because you got some talented offensive players. Cal was – I'll tell you what, a game was fun to watch was Cal against Ohio State last year.
Yeah, man.
And it's really surprising that it was fun, but, when you have those offenses, that's what Pac-12 does for you. They give you that high explosive offensive games, and honestly, really.
Real quick, and I know this will say a lot about myself and what level of degenerate I am, but I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but owning Pac-12 guys is the best because you get those late points. I love making a comeback. I don't like defending a lead. I love being up late. I'm out at the bar, and maybe I'm within striking distance of a guy, whether it be in seasonal or DFS, and my guys just start going off. And it's great because I know he's shaking his skin, and I'm about to catch him. And then I start drinking even harder, and I take that week. Great.
Andrew, I love it. Dude, that is, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you.
He brought it today.
Dude, Andrew, that was awesome. I'm with you, dude. The late game sweat is what it's all about. I cannot tell you how many times I've lost because I don't have a Pac-12 player, or like in the NBA, I don't have somebody from the Kings or Sacramento or the Lakers. It's always something about the West Coast. It's like different water or something out there, but there's always more fantasy points scored on the West Coast.
Oh, Brandon Cooks owned me last year. I remember one night he scored like 5 touchdowns, and I'm just sitting there watching it. I was like, surely he's done. He's got it. At like 2, I said, okay, he's done. Next touch, he takes it like 60 yards. I said, I lost. It's over.
It's over. Well, I will be rostering. No, I won't be rostering Brett Hundley. I just don't have just doesn't do it for me. But Mariota, give me some Taylor Kelly, some Kalfani Muhammad. The name. Good show, guys. I think obviously we will be back next week. It might be Wednesday night. I might go Wednesday night, but we'll see. We'll make sure everybody knows. Andrew at Andrew P. Katz and Zach at _CFF News _.
Yes.
Hit them up on Twitter, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will be back next week. Hope you guys enjoyed a preview of the Pac-12 for 2014.